So I'm just going to show you this on an asset really quick. The importance again of your texel density here. This is based off one of the Prometheus concepts. Uh, oh my gosh, I can't remember the concept artist guy, his name at the time. He's super, super talented. I'm totally sorry, I'm totally spacing on your name. Um, but absolutely cool concepts and really nice for the modeling of forms and stuff. One of the things we're going to talk about a lot in this class is I'm going to kind of push you guys to use a little bit more geometry than what you're used to, primarily because a lot of you guys are migrating on to newer, higher end tech stuff. And also, for those of you guys who have any interest in VR, it's going to be very important for you guys to understand that a lot of the old school techniques of especially normal mapping and that kind of stuff, they don't really work that well in VR, especially when you have full cognition in two eyes of a 3D object. The fakery just doesn't really hold up. Alright, so again, I'm going to try and get this asset relatively on the grid. Just grab some of these guys, kind of nudge them over. And again, I'm going to try and be more anal than what I am in production. I tend to try and iterate a lot, so I come back and forth on this stuff, and I'll try and move. And I tend to have to come back and revisit my assets a lot because I tend to go a little fast. If you're going to do that, one of the things I do recommend is you model clean, and you model so that you can go back and adjust your objects and your assets pretty quickly, especially in a production, because it's very important. Um, so we'll just get this guy relatively in scale here. Do box. Okay, so again, we can see the UVs don't actually match. Now again, this is using a planar map, but this is the idea behind getting an object within texel density in comparison to the world. I'm going to try and match the little tiny squares that are on this big guy to this guy, okay? And this is super important to do this. Like, I cannot stress you guys enough to do this. Okay, the reason why you want to do this is because you need to find out very early on if your object, and this is going to dictate your shading, how you're going to use normal maps, all that kind of stuff, if it's going to match within texel density. And you're going to find 9 times out of 10, most of these assets are going to be too large to actually fit within texel density. So you're going to have to split them up, make them into separate objects, or you're going to have to do crazy, cool, fun stuff on the shader side using masks and tiling stuff. And again, it depends on your company. It depends on how important texel density is. But I've worked at some companies where texel density was really, really important. And I've gotten to see guys who were really worried about texel density and guys who weren't so worried about texel density. And it does make a visual difference on your level. Now, again, with anything, you can take it to a very illogical extreme where you're doing horrible amounts of OT and you're scaling the texel skins on rocks and stuff. I'm not telling you to do that, but I am telling you to keep an idea of how your asset's going to be used and compare it with the rest of the world before you take it too far. Okay? So, we're going to continue on and we're going to talk a little bit about making modular assets. For this first part of this tutorial, the first little sci-fi hallway that we're going to do, we're going to try and keep it simple, okay? We're going to try and keep it as basic as I can. So I'm going to try to keep you guys away from doing high poly to low poly rips. I'll show you guys a little bit of techniques on some of that stuff, but for this first part of this tutorial, we're going to try and go bare minimum, and I'm going to show you guys the advantages of going bare minimum and super simple with your objects because you can do a lot with very little, okay? So hopefully you guys can come back, look at this texel density stuff again. Again, the takeaway from this is making sure your object's texel resolution matches against other objects of varying scales in your scene. Okay, that's very important. And it'll make sense as we go on. We got another object here on the floor. Same thing, 2048 is what the the comparable measurement is for this, or a 1024. It doesn't even matter, right? They're all the same scale. It could be a 512. But you can see the importance of making sure that these assets all match up because the shaders, the maps, all of this stuff, if they're all set up and they're all made correctly, this is how you make your stuff look good. And this is how you make consistent art. So we'll continue on.